Welcome, everybody. I'm Rochelle Easton with Marvelous Mud Pottery Studio, and this is the Pottery Student Podcast. And I'm super excited today to have both of my fabulous instructors with me. So we are here with Leo Arbonis, our throwing instructor, and Diana Harrison, our hand building instructor. But today we're going to put Leo in the hot seat and we're going to talk all about throwing. Welcome, both of you. And Diana and I are used to our little banter back and forth, and so we're excited to have you join us, Leo, since we do that anyways, off camera. But they don't know you, and so I would love for everybody to get to know your wonderful self. Will you please share a little bit about your background and how you came to be loving pottery like we do?
Okay, I guess it started off to finding a challenge.
Very good.
We're going into the wheel, it's challenging, and I was up for it. It was right my kind of style because I like the straight lines.
Yes.
Get out of the pottery wheel. So yeah, once I got an eye on that wheel, I said, "Ooh, I think this is going to be for me."
Yeah.
And that's where it actually got to do it.
Yeah.
That's where it just evolved from there.
And I remember that day. Yes. I really do remember that day because you had been eyeing it, and we were like, and I was like, we were waiting one more month. Remember, I was like, okay, May, we're going to start into May, and this was a couple of years ago. Mm-hmm. And here comes April, and we had an opening in the class time. Somebody didn't show up. A couple people didn't show up, and it was just you and me. And we're like, you know what? Let's just jump on.
No hesitation.
No.
Let's go on the wheel.
That's right. And I think that I don't really think you got off of the wheel, except when we had to have a temporary location where we didn't have our wheels for a couple months. Other than that, you have been focused.
Steadily focused. But it was pretty good actually to have that little break.
Yeah.
To get back into the hand building.
Oh yeah.
Because there's a lot of techniques there to still learn. And actually some of the stuff that I learned on the hand building techniques that you showed us, I actually was able to incorporate it to the wheel throwing.
I wish, well, you know what? We did record that. I was going to say, I wish we had that recorded so we could replay that to everybody over and over again, because that is something that I truly believe in. One of my topics as far as teaching or beliefs about teaching pottery is that you have to learn hand building before you put a motor to it, because once you start putting the motor to it, then you're out of control, really. There's less control there. And so Diana, I think you have throwing experience too, and you have grown in your skills. And I think you like it better now.
For me, it was one of those things that I think I tried it not too long after you did.
Yeah.
But for me, I sat there in 5 minutes. It was an emotional experience, to say the least, and I had to get off the wheel, and I stayed away from it for a while. But in your class, I recently got back on.
Yeah.
I have looked at.
Yeah.
Super.
Yes, and that is one thing I always praise you, because I've done this for over 30 years. And even though my memberships are both hand building and throwing, and I will put new people on the wheel and teach them from the beginner stage, that is not my favorite thing to do. And you just showed from the very beginning this patience and this genteel nature. And you have proven yourself over and over again as an instructor, but mainly with people that I had been working with for years. There's a few names, not just one that's present, but there's a few other people that they learned so much better from you than they did from me, because I am just like, you can do this. Just go on there and just feel this. And after 30 some years of teaching, I was been there, done that, and was ready for somebody else to take over the beginning wheel. And you have not only taken over the beginner wheel, but the challenge. You have taken on challenges too. And I love seeing that. So tell us about how you have seen your journey grow. And
yeah, if we're tapping in more to that, teaching the people that we're not say struggling, but just wanted to the patience thing.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I guess I am pretty patient. Everybody probably has their boiling point at some point, but I could just sit back and I just relax. I turn it more into a process of everything that's happening. I don't psych myself up that I have to throw something amazing right off from the start. I'm just learning through the whole process, and it's just all patience. There's been some times where it gets a little frustrated, or the wheel kind of knows how you feel. And I had those moments. They were saying, "Let me just take a break, and we'll start again the next time."
Yeah.
That's been it's been pretty good.
And it is interesting because we've talked about this, Diana, about how clay knows our moods, and especially when you have the wheel, that really knows our mood. And one of the things I think too is that I'm coming from the college education level, and when I was teaching that, and that I had a certain steps that they had to proceed through and kind of pass, obviously centering like with perfection to multiple times in a row and that kind of thing. And so that's still in the back of my teaching realm. And I think you're coming in and you are more in touch with our students, being from you've trained others for your day job, but you have also always instilled that creative side in it. And I love the creative side, but I'm also very much the technical aspect when I get to teaching on the wheel. And sometimes I don't cross over early enough. And I think you learned from an early on stage that you're able to cross over the technical part of it with the creative part of it from the very beginning. And I think that makes everybody else more comfortable. Does that make sense?
And obviously, you have a little more experience than us. But I feel too, because it's still fresh on the. You can see it's still fresh. So all those where everybody's at, I could still live it.
And I don't.
What they're going through and what challenges I had at that time, and how I overcame that.
Right.
From listening to your guidance and stuff like that, how I was able to incorporate. And helping them.
Yeah, and that's really true. I mean, I learned I started when I was 4 on the wheel, and basically spent more time, like through 6th and 7th grade was my time where I really got into it, and through college and graduate school. That was a long time ago for me. But that's true. And I think we have a lot of adults that come to us, and we're an adult-only studio. A lot of adults that have seen movies or YouTube videos or Instagram or something like that, and they think it's just going to be easy. And so I know you've heard people say that in class as well.
Because on screen it looks like they make it look easy and romantic and smooth. All this, but in reality, there's sometimes it is smooth.
It's anything but That's right.
For
a greasing balls in 4 minutes first. That's right. So I think that's pretty cool.
But it is a full body thing.
Yes.
What I think is part of the thing is that you don't really see that when you're watching, when you're sitting at the wheel. You feel like Leo was talking in the youth talked about being
right. Yeah. It does. And it was interesting because I was doing a demo last Monday, a week ago, and I had about 6 or 7 students sitting around me at the wheel. And before I started, I said, look at my position, look at my body, look at everything, my arms, where my arms are, my legs, how they're braced. And when I start, it's like a runner's starting at the starting block. And I have one leg back and pushing with energy towards that so that my body goes behind the clay. And I have everything else is in position. And I said, you have to really look at every aspect of my body position to see how I personally have to get enough energy behind here to center a piece. So that other people have strength in different parts than I do, and they would set up differently. But this is how I have to do it. I think that's really important with throwing, is that people understand it is body, mind, and soul. It truly is. Yeah. It's the physical aspect, the emotional aspect, and feeling it, because whether or not you realize it, like we said, the clay knows what mindset we're in when we're coming in. So I was excited because when we opened Marvelous Mud Pottery Studio, I was the only teacher, I was the only instructor, and I was teaching both wheel and hand building. And I still do that in the same classes. I'll do a hand building project and I'll flutter back and forth between the wheel and spend time with people over there and get them started. So that was the only time that they could do wheel throwing. And then I approached Leo to do a specific throwing membership. And so we got that started officially in August. So it's relatively new. I think you started a little bit earlier than that, but officially in August. And it has been fabulous. So tell us how that has, because I know what I like about it that has changed people's perspective in the studio with the wheel. But tell us what you think has been the benefit of having a throwing membership for our members.
Obviously, the wheel takes a lot of dedication and time. Obviously, we know it takes patience. But I think having that class just for throwing, they could forget about everything else and we're just focusing just on throwing.
Yeah.
And it does. Once everybody starts to get the idea of
Yeah.
it, and they'll start to incorporate the hand building with it. Having that one day just to focus on, obviously that one class.
One class a week. Yeah.
Focus just on throwing.
Yeah.
And they'll see themselves improve.
Yeah.
Fast.
A lot faster. You're right. And you've done both. So you do his throwing membership and you do my hand building / throwing membership. And I bet you can feel a huge difference between the focus driven aspects of Leo's throwing membership and then us having a hand building mixed throwing.
100%. Because we're all popped in the wheels and where the wheels are always that are somewhere.
Just so everybody knows, we keep looking over here and we have 10 wheels over here that is our inspiration right now for talking. So that's why we keep looking over there and pointing to it.
We're all over there together. So we've got our wheel group and Leo's always guiding us. And then it's weird. You're warring each other and helping each other. You can feel like the energy when somebody's starting to get frustrated and then you can Leo will step in and move us back into where.
Love that. Yep. I love that. Yep.
And it creates this nice energy that's so you can really relax.
Right.
That's what about, because everybody learns at a different rate. Everybody's actually at different stages. So I'm always looking at everybody. They might not see me, but they could probably feel me.
Right. They do. Yeah, I agree. They do.
I'll see where everybody's at, and I'll see if I'm but
Yeah. Right.
person, somebody else has a different.
Well, you're intuitive in that way too. All three of us have had experience training and teaching and all of that. And it's that intuition, I think, from an instructor standpoint, that they don't have to look up and say, hey, Leo, can you help me? Because that's really hard for a lot of people to do. But you can look over there and see where they're frustrated or struggling and make that approach. And I think that's really good. I keep thinking that little thing on our phone that our website warrior keeps telling us to do, the focus. I go on there and I can focus, and you can, I don't even know the terminology, but when you turn your phone off, do not disturb. That's what I'm looking for. So the focus button tells do not disturb, whatever it is. I feel like our memberships do that now. It's like the focus. So the throwing membership, it's the focus on throwing. The hand building membership that you have, Diane, it's the focus on hand building. Mine is authentic to me because I focus on a variety of things at one time, and so I'm doing both. But it's interesting because in mine, more people have stuck with hand building than throwing. And in my experience of teaching, when I've done, because I've taught this way for 30 some years, doing both in one class. But in my experience, most people were chomping at the bit to get to the wheel. And we didn't have that here. We had people that just went down deep into hand building. They absolutely loved it. And they were fearful of missing out. What is that? FOMO, right? With the hand building. Yeah. So when that started to happen last spring, we realized that was an issue with members in our membership, that they wanted to be on the wheel, but they were afraid of missing out on hand building. So we put in something called Throwing League. And Throwing League was something I started on a Saturday morning once a month. And our members, it's exclusive to our members, and they could pay an extra fee. And it's not even that much. It's about the same as an open studio time, but they got instruction that was focused on the wheel, 3 hours instruction. And so that grew in popularity very quickly. Yes. And so when I went out to have my little brain surgery, Leo took that over, and he's been doing it ever since. And so Leo not only teaches Leo's throwing membership, he teaches the throwing league one Saturday a month. And that, I think, has even elevated our members, even just doing it once a month. People have really become more engaged with it. So what have you seen about those people too?
I see that they become more engaged. Yeah, and you can feel that excitement. Like they know, oh, it's Saturday's coming up. It's throwing
Yeah,
me. Like,
yeah.
can't wait to get there. Help me prep up before that day. What do I need to get the creative going? Yeah, and then it's a pretty full class, I believe. We're always
Every month we're full, and I hate to even ask you to do an extra one each month. And then I hate even more the thought of me having to come back on a Saturday morning and teach. But I like that energy.
even from the beginning all the way to the end. What is this? And if somebody's having a rough day, we can all come together.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been great.
Yeah. That has been one of our things. I think that our membership has really been successful at tuning in to what they need. And that throwing league kind of, really hit the mark on that. So I'm looking forward to 2025 and expanding in some way. We can't fit any more wheels, so we're going to have to figure that out, but expanding that. And I'm glad that we're giving them the opportunity to do that. I wanted to talk about the difference between, we not only have different teaching styles, we have different creative styles and different throwing styles. And so we have pieces in front of us that we have thrown. This one actually Leo threw for me. He made this mug for me, which I absolutely love. And I'm sipping out of it right now. But tell us about your style. And
All right, so my style, obviously, I'm going to go a little bit more background deep.
Okay.
So my day job is an auto body technician, so I paint cars and fix cars. So my job there is actually to make those cars look perfect.
Right,
Nice and
right.
straight lines, that everything nothing ever happened. I've been doing this since 1996. Everything has to be straight. It's been dug into my head. Everything has to be straight. Everybody's looking at your panels. So that has translated over to my throwing. And pretty much everything I create, even hand building.
Yes.
To make those as straight as possible.
Yeah.
I'll probably be the last one. I'm still trying to be straight. But they'll say, okay, let's move on. Let's move on.
It's sophisticated and wonky. No.
So that's the style I like.
Yeah.
That's my influences.
Right. Yeah. That's amazing.
I tried to
Right. Wonky, but also altering it. You've done some of that. Yeah. But from the very beginning, from like the first day that we were working together on the wheel, you were already straight. You were able to center and pull up very quickly. And I knew that was your MO, but even in hand building, you were already showing that too. Yeah. Whereas mine is very wonky. Now, there's only so much wonk you can get on the wheel without altering. And so I always put some curves in and all that kind of stuff and do something like this with stemware. But this is the one, this was thrown on the wheel and altered. And this was an interesting story that I did a whole collection of these. So I have been producing pottery been a professional potter and ceramic artist for over 30 years and have done the independent shows and the galleries and the juried art shows and teach and was at Disney and all that. So these are what would really sell because people are thinking like functional vessels, drink, eat, candles, whatever. But when I was first diagnosed with my brain cyst, I was off balance. It's one of the first things that happens is you go off balance. And so I started to continued to throw. I had a show coming up, and I couldn't throw anything straight. I could not even, this is straight for me. And so I started throwing these vessels, and they would look basically like this. Don't look at it like that, but basically like this. And they were angled and all that. And I had one of my friends who volunteered to come and throw vessels for me so that I could do this show because I couldn't throw anything straight. And I was like, oh, no, then they're not mine. And she's like, you can finish them. And I was like, no, they have to be mine from the beginning. And so I took these wonky things that I was throwing and I made them into lady vases, is what I called them. And so they were the weirdest looking things. We sold out and I just kept making them, just putting little hats on them and making planters and vases. But it was a way that in that season of my health at that point and being off balance, the wheel was my partner in being able to continue what I was doing. And that's what I think I love most about clay, is that we always joke about the clay knows how we're feeling, the clay knows what's going on with us, but it is also our partner. And when we decide that we want to go in one direction, the clay knows better sometimes. And that's what happened with this. And I just think that's something that it's a story that I like to share, because anybody who comes to learn the wheel, it does take a long time. There's a learning curve to it. But once you can center, that's your key. Once you can center and then pull up, even if it's wonky when you pull it up, to me, it's not about the product. It is about the journey. And even though I was able to make something out of this, this marks my journey, that season in my journey. And that's why I love these so much. And I think that our members can learn a lot about not holding themselves to perfection when clay is the material. Yes. But I've come a long way too on that. Haven't you lessened that pressure on yourself?
Yes, I know. Yeah, I don't keep that pressure, because that'll let me, whatever comes out, I'm gonna be okay with it. Or if
Right.
I'm not,
It's
I'll
clay.
start. It's just clay. Start over.
Yeah. That's the thing. It's just clay, right? Now you have made a few things recently that you're very proud of. They're not here though. Are they here?
They're here.
Oh, they're not.
Still-
Okay.
But I was going to go through the question in here. So mine right now whole are fairly similar, because I'm just starting. It's been a couple months, so right now I still get excited when I center it. And still make Leo check and make sure. But right now, like at the beginning, a lot of your stuff does make decision because you're learning to pull it straight.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know. So I've noticed in the conversations a little bit with the members, like that beginning is a fascinating start, because when you especially when you do hand building, your hand really gets
Right.
wonky.
Key, earthy, all those good words that we love.
So when did you guys start to see more style shape up with the throwing? Come to shape?
That's a great, and I think we're still honestly answered that.
Yeah.
From the beginning, I just felt like it had to be straight up.
Yeah. So we have this, and I had challenged Leo to this early on, but I'm not quite sure he's still counting. So when we teach pottery and like the college level, whatever, I would have my students really aim to throw 100 pots before they could do anything, like even become more creative. Now, again, that was a more higher level educational setting, but I challenged him, was like, okay, you gotta do these 100 pots. Now the 100 pots can be a variety of them. But what happens with the 100 pots and that repetition is that repetition is getting you to put the technique of it as second nature. And once you feel that is second nature, then your creativity starts to evolve and express itself, because you're not concentrating so much on the technical part of it anymore. That is just coming by rote memory. Like you've got muscle memory in there. And I saw a huge difference, and you're past 100 pots at this point, but I saw a huge difference, I think, with Leo. I think you were at like the 40th mark or 50th mark.
Yeah,
do you remember that? And he started carving. Yeah. And because I don't know if you remember, like before that, it was like, oh, you're just so happy to get a pot, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you don't want to do anything to that pot.
I want to touch it.
And I think the first time I made you slice it open to see if it was even, you're like, I don't want to do that. But now you make your people do that. Yeah.
And I'll do some pieces, and I'll just.
Yeah. You got to cut them right in half. That's right. So I think
Leo's style, I think of like the fluting. He does a lot with
Sgraffito, he just and ribs. Oh yeah, the narrow necks and yeah. And I think that I really do, and for years I've talked to people about this, that once you are comfortable with your skill, like the actual technical part of the skill, then your brain is free to go into its self-expression. And somebody had told me, so when I was setting up at Disney, I would have thousands of pieces ready for a show. And I walked in one time and I was talking to a colleague there and I was like, I really feel like I don't even have a style anymore. I just feel like I am producing. I'm just a machine, just producing. And they walked me around and they pointed out the similarities in not the form, but in kind of the finishing and the design elements and all those things that I went through. And they're like, you have a style. I could pick you out of a group. And I think that a lot of times we don't recognize our own style for a while. I think other people recognize it before we do because we're so close to it. But I guarantee you that now Leo could put out a collection of his pieces, a collection of my pieces. We could have a collection of other people that have been doing this for a while. And you guys would be able to come in and tell whose is who, even though we might all have mugs and candle pots and bakers or whatever we're making. Yeah.
But that's a good observation you made about for the numbers, because somewhere in there, when you hit that 40 to 60 more, you start to see, so that 100 really is important.
It is. That 100 is very important, especially for centering, for pulling up. It is very important for the skill, but it's definitely important for the comfort level so you can get in the creative part.
Moving past that, where it's so low, where each one is so precious, and you just...
Exactly. And I try to say, well, it's not that they become less precious. Because somebody was asking me, when do you feel comfortable actually selling your pieces or giving them away? Because some people don't want to even give them away. And I said, you just get to this point where you have this confidence level that if you've thrown something and you've made this piece and you love it so much, that not only do you say to yourself, well, I can make that, but you want somebody else to have that. You want to give it to them because you're just so proud of it, and you want to give them something that you weren't able to give them before because this is something that you've made. And we're going to wrap up there, but I do want to, is there anything you want to say before we wrap up? Because I want to talk about just your membership times and all of that.
Let's see, what could I... We still have some space available on the wheel.
We do.
Don't be afraid to try it out.
That's right.
Never know what could happen.
That's right. You might fall in love with it.
Your hand building to another level.
It really does. And we'll have to come again and talk about the connection between hand building and throwing. I think that's a whole segment that we need to touch on. So is there anything you want to add to the end of that? You just that is the consensus of everybody who takes Leo's classes. So I'm so proud to have him here. We're just honored at the studio to have Leo teaching. Leo's throwing membership is Thursday nights, 6 to 9 p.m. And he does Throwing League once a month. And again, both of those are exclusive to our members. So if you want to become a member at Marvelous Mud Pottery Studio, you need to join one of Diana's Dig Deep 4-week classes. The next one isn't until January, but once you have those 4 weeks under your belt in hand building, then we can invite you to join either a hand building membership with Diana, a throwing membership with Leo, or a hand building / throwing membership with me. And we would love to have you. Just check into marvelousmudpotterystudio.com and all the information is there. Thanks for watching The Pottery Student. And thank you guys for being here with us today.